Well, we'll go back to the wisdom piece, but I'll tell you, my father used to tell me, he said, you run out of warranty at about 25, and after about 50, the replacement parts get harder to find. so I have experienced both the warranty kind of running out and trying to find replacement parts, right?
Yeah, I'm going through some of that too. Hitting 71 years of age, and I'm like, where's up?
God, if I look as good as you at 71, I'll praise Jesus the rest of my day. I mean, right? That's the truth. Wow. So what was it like growing up in Rocky Mountain? And you got this wonderful journey, ending up in the city.
I just took him through a little part of the history, and I'm going back even just to see the pecan tree that we planted on the side of the house.
Yeah.
And how huge it is now. And every so often I would go as a young kid, stand beside that tree. It's like, I'll be glad one day when I can pick some pecans off of you.
Right.
And that was that day that I could go and do that. Stand there and see that. Just go back and see the neighborhood, see where things were and where they aren't.
Right.
The things that are there now. And even there's one old store that I used to go in. The store is still, the building is still there. It's all shabby,
right.
But just to see that it's still there. Some of the neighbors who used to visit our home, their home is still there.
Right.
So it was just a lot of memories were going through my head, a lot of voices going through my head at the time, becoming a member of a band in high school, and one of my neighbors' son was a keyboardist in the band.
Right.
His house is still there. So I remember going over to his house practicing, and his father hooking up his Studebaker.
Oh wow!
To a trailer and putting his organ and my drums.
Sure.
In the trailer, we took a ride down Main Street to where Reed's Music Store was.
Right.
So I got my first drum set.
I remember Reed's Music Store.
And my mother and I we looking in the window that drum set, and I told her that's the set that I want because my father wanted to give me one out of the pawn shop. Not happening.
Right.
I wanted the one in the window, and she made a deal with me. And the guy at Reed said, I see how much you want this drum set. She said, if you can come up with $25 a month, you can take it home. So my mom said, I got my $12.50 if you get $12.50.
Wow.
So that's what we did. We took it home.
Yeah.
I got a job selling the Grit newspaper.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
you sound like my father.
Yeah, man.
A True Grit, the newspaper. Yeah,
newspapers.
I've never seen one.
Yeah,
but I've heard the story all my life. I guess you're right there with me.
The one I was going to start explaining.
The Grit newspaper, cutting grass, shining shoes at Wilkins Barbershop.
Right.
Anything I could do to make that $12.50. But that night, taking the drum set home, I didn't even know how to set it up.
just knew that it was going to happen.
But I just had to have it. And then to my grandmother's surprise, that was the worst mistake that they ever made because I'm practicing all the time with the drums, man. But it got, like I said, word got back to my band director that I had a drum set, Mr. Woods.
Mm-hmm.
And he and I hooked up in his band. I was taught how to play jazz on the way to my first gig with him.
Right.
And from there on.
On the way.
On the way.
Oh, here, Joe, let me tell you how this works. See, I don't have an ear for that.
That's all you got to do all night.
That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
All right, do it one more time for me. All right, you're hired.
Yeah. It's great.
Well, what was the first gig? I mean,
it was at I think it was at Booker T's. It was what was it? They had the fashion show, the Ebony Fashion Show.
Okay.
It was at Booker T.
Okay.
And that was our first gig there.
Okay.
And I played that gig with him that night. And the interesting thing was Mr. Will was the models, after coming on stage, at our vantage point, we could see them. So, models, they changed clothes right in front of you.
That's right.
Mr. Wills was sweating the whole night. He was playing the way he was sweating.
Yeah, but those are good memories, right? I mean, come on. And we're all old enough to at least appreciate what that would do for us, right?
Yeah, I don't know if you remember Willie Ward and the Electras. How long have you been? Were you born here?
I was born in Greenville, but I have lived here. I'm 53. I've lived here for 52 years, 52 and a half.
Yeah, that was
the exception of a little bit of time in Virginia when I went to school.
Okay.
And so it's been a great place to me. And so, man, I'm old enough to remember that corner store experience. Because what I would do is I go pick up soda bottles.
Right.
When I was a little kid,
Kids,
you get 5-10 cents. I could take it to the corner store.
Yeah.
They would give me the money. That's what I bought my bubble gum with, or
And
soft drink
cookies or
for the
whatever.
day, or
Yeah,
the
yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
and it kept me occupied, and on and on and on.
Right.
So I know enough about that,
That
but
experience.
that
Growing up,
experience to really fully appreciate it. But it's just gone. That
Yeah,
sense
it
of
is.
community, that local store just
Mm-hmm.
is, which was a big part of the store, the area, right? Old
Yes,
men were sitting
yes.
there telling lies.
Right.
and
Yeah.
Ladies would come in, get some eggs. I mean, it was a real grocery store. It was a
hub
real
of
experience.
communication.
It was, yeah.
I was walking down the street in my neighborhood. On the street is like a hill, and that's where we would take our popsicle sticks.
Right.
It would rain, and we would race our popsicle sticks down the street.
So now you try to get somebody to do that now. Call
Yeah,
it
yeah,
fun.
yeah.
They're gonna look at you like
Well, it
you
was
are
fun.
out there. No,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
understand. I mean,
Yeah,
I've done equally as
Yeah.
things of that nature.
Yeah.
It is fun. It's interesting. So you grow up here. You've made kind of a little bit of a tour. Memories are flooding up.
Yeah,
I mean, overall good. I mean,
Yes.
what's the take home from? And I know it's hard to digest all those things.
Because I'm still reeling from it. The take home is that I grew up in a time where things were great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we might look at it as another thing, but I had no idea what was going on around me at the time, because my parents, grandparents, and father figure didn't introduce any of that into our home.
Right.
My first experience of any type of racism was riding my bike, I think, on Falls Road.
Okay.
And this guy rode up behind me and said, "Get out of the way, nigga."
Uh-huh.
Rode past me. I tried to catch him because I had never heard that word
Sure.
before, to find out what that was. He called me. Why did he want to say that to me?
Right.
But I got lost. I didn't catch him. So I went home that evening and I told my grandmother about the experience. So her words to me were, she says, "Well, JoJo, that's something that you would never be."
Right.
And for me, looking back on it, that saved me from becoming another person.
Sure. Sure.
Because after that, I got into bands with white guys, white musicians. And they would eventually come to my house and eat. I would go to their home and eat, and I didn't hold any grudges or have anything about.
It all comes down to relationship,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Even
exactly.
my mother would say that Jesus died for relationship. It's that important
Right.
that that's really the answer to everything.
And also, there's a joy bringing him back
Right.
here to be able to show him where I came from and why he's the way he is, because in our reactions with each other now, even today, he said, "Oh, that's where I got that from."
Yeah.
Things of that nature.
So where'd you get the hair from, man? That's
Hold on, before you say that, when he was a kid, I used to tell him, "You should have dreads." He was like, "I don't want to dreads. I don't
It
want
looks good on you, though.
It actually stemmed from being insecure about what I thought too much about what people thought about me.
Right.
You understand? Like, I'm growing up in New York City, so it's always in the light,
Yeah.
always in the spotlight. And I realized that if I stopped, it was like a little experiment. Like, if I stopped doing my hair and I stopped cleaning up, like, are the same dudes that gonna still chill me because the girls won't want me anymore?
Yeah.
Because I don't have the look they want? And of course it wasn't, but I fell in love with it, and I fell in love with myself during that.
Right. So it was a transformation. It was a learning experience.
Yeah.
I mean,
Without me even knowing that, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Backward, I guess, at this point, looking back, saying, okay, that's awesome, man. Well, so you're encouraging dreads, and then you. I know it wasn't at the same time. Meanwhile, my father said, "Cut your hair."
Full circle.
Full circle.
Yeah, for sure.
So what's it been like being in Rocky Mount, going through the old haunts? Have you been here before?
Yeah, I've been here before.
Yeah.
It's definitely different. Like I said, growing up in New York City,
Sure.
It's very slow paced, and that's what I was telling him about today. As far as like the community, I don't see that many people out anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I first came here, there was more going on. The neighbors, I think, were still there. The first time I came down there. It's different though to see how people actually still live, in these communities and things like that, and they still prosper. They can still prosper through them.
Sure.
But for me, I think the most thing is like what he was saying earlier was like seeing how far, like, the etymology of everything. Like, I came from this. If he made this decision, if he didn't even have that conversation with that guy on a bike, would I still be here?
We are the
Like,
sum
all
total of
that.
our decisions,
Yeah,
right?
exactly,
Really, at the end of the day.
That's interesting. That's
I could
interesting.
choose to be angry or not. I could choose to make
Yeah,
that,
it's
move
all a
forward. I
choice.
could choose to, and that's the only thing I can control is me.
Yeah, right.
It's the only thing I've got,
Right.
and even then, maybe not as much as I think,
Right. How does one become mayor?
Wow. You grow up in a community, and I had found some success in business and other endeavors, and I had completed what I called my victory lap. And a couple of friends trying to invite me to go to Nashville, Tennessee, to Charleston, South Carolina, to Atlanta, because I had gone through a divorce, had my children were not home. I went from working 100 hours a week to basically zero.
Right.
Which was awesome for a little while.
Getting there.
And so for the first time in my life, I really had an opportunity to make a decision of what I wanted to do or not. And long story short, I decided to stay in Rocky Mount. And then once staying in Rocky Mount, I had a couple of folks encourage me to run for mayor because I thought that I could bring some things to the community, specifically a Rolodex of CEOs, investors all over the country. And not that in and of itself makes it happen, but as an ingredient into a larger conversation that could really add some value.
Possibilities of change.
That's right. And so I heard it. Well, what's the harm in trying?
Right.
And so then you find yourself a mayor, first term mayor, first time I've ever held political office at all.
Wow.
And let's see, we've had a couple demonstrations based on race. So I've got a Confederate monument for sale cheap if anybody wants it. I've got COVID we're trying to all work through.
Wow.
So it's been an interesting year. I mean, I've only been in office for 10 months, 11 months,
Interesting.
right?
Wow.
And so it's just been a crazy world. And just watching everybody kind of, I'm seeing a lot of frustration, I think, relative to COVID.
Yeah.
It's just changed everybody's world. Well, it's changed your world, right?
Of course.
So, how we deal with that, what decisions we make going forward, I think are really critical. And so I think part of it is just trying to understand who we are as a community, where we want to go, and then how do we set about the process of making it happen. So that's how one ends up becoming mayor.
Right.
Now, ask me next year, the year after that, we'll check in, just kind of keep abreast.
Keep abreast of what's going on. See where you're standing at then.
That's exactly what I'll be standing,
yeah.
still loving my community, still trying to help it prosper,
Of
still
course.
trying to help folks in our community be as successful as they possibly can.
Well, we take our first meeting, our first interpretation of our first meeting, how we perceive each other. And
Right.
my first time seeing you on camera and listening to you, I was just taken back by your sincerity.
Sure. Well, I think that's really it. If you don't want, it's a job.
Yeah.
I actually paid a lot. I raised a lot of money and paid a lot of money for the opportunity for a job
Right.
that doesn't pay very well, by the way. And that's neither here nor there. You don't do it for that, right?
Of course.
But so it is so if you don't really want the job, you don't need to be running for it.
Right.
And we've got a community, the median household income is about $38,000. Now, if you look at the MSA, it's a little bit higher than that, but the city limits itself. And you look at our dropout rate, you look at various things, and the biggest impact I believe that we can make in our community is to achieve a higher graduation rate, particularly in high school.
Right.
And the reality is that's the biggest singular thing that any one person can do for themselves to give a greater opportunity for success. And so that's really kind of a mission and something I'm really concerned about
Of course.
in this COVID-19 world, because we've got a lot of kids that, aren't in class. We have a technology divide, or, we have kids who don't have parents or a community in the house supporting them, encouraging them to continue to do their classwork. But it's hard enough.
Yeah.
It's hard enough without that. And I don't know about you, but I'm 12 years old. My mom's not home.
Right.
I don't care what equipment I have. Do I choose to participate at the same level? I'd love to tell you I would, but
Right.
you know, it would only take a phone call from a buddy saying, "Hey, let's go play
Of course,
basketball
of
or
course.
whatever," and
Yeah.
next thing you know, that's what I'm doing. Well,
Exactly.
if that continues on,
Comes a
then
pattern of life.
we've lost a component of a generation, and that's really something I'm concerned
Right,
about.
right, of
you
course.
know.
I took a quick peek at where J.W. Parker was
Yes.
in his category of schools here, and it was
Yeah.
really at the bottom
Right.
of attendance and
Right.
you know and level of education there, and that kind of set me back because I was one of the first students in that junior high
Is
school.
that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's where I got my chance to be in one of the baddest bands in the land,
Sure.
T. Washington Marching Band.
There you go.
You know, and it made me feel bad to know that had that reputation of, you know, of the achievement level that it had. And the thing, I was talking to Reggie, you know, when I thought about coming down here was what could I do to, you know, to help change that? And this first idea I had, it's kind of crazy, but I'm going to tell you anyway.
Well, that's all right. Well, you know, somebody listening, or who knows, maybe you throw a little spaghetti on the wall.
So my first idea was say, okay, well, we got a lot of issues in Rocky Mountain. They're all over.
Sure.
You got the drugs, you got the people shooting and killing each other. So if we had drug dealers that turn into businessmen, how would that change things? So I'm thinking that, so if there was a moratorium on selling drugs for, say 60 days, you gave drug dealers 60 days to sell their drugs without being apprehended, but that money has to be turned into a business. That means you have to go to a business school, learn how to run your business, in some way making your community better. You know?
I'll go you a step further. I'll tell you that I think drug dealers are entrepreneurs
Yes,
at
yes,
some
yes,
level,
yes,
right?
yes, yes.
That's what I was telling
Yeah.
So, yeah, how do you channel that same energy, that same know-how?
Right.
Look,
It's all
I
mentality.
really, at the end of the day, I'm a salesman,
Yeah.
or I'm an organizer, or I'm, you know, the accountant. I mean, every component that you see in every business resides in that same type of organization.
Right.
So how do you take that energy, channel it into something that,
Right.
you know, you can do in the open air, if you will?
It's applying that same mentality to something not necessarily better or for worse, but just something just different, just
That's
different
right.
route. You understand? To create opportunity.
Right.
You understand? And I think that's what goes on, not even just in this community and everywhere with our people. It's just that it's like this. Once they have a lane, it's like their lane, and that's it. And that's where that mentality breaks off. So right now, I'm just doing this for me, and the opportunity goes away after
Right.
that point. You know.
Right. But I think it's also about giving folks an opportunity and some hope. You know, so one of the things that I've also seen in talking to folks, and look, I don't know how to learn other than just talking to people, asking
Right,
questions,
right.
right? And I've come from a world that there's no such thing as a stupid question. I mean, you may laugh at me,
Right, right.
but so, you know, if you've never really left the area, you really have no understanding of what a broader world looks
Right,
like.
right.
It's much easier for us to have the conversation than it is if you're living there and you're so insulated. So I think part of that too, not always, but part of it is I can't see myself
Right.
anywhere
There's
beyond
no
what
vision.
my circumstances are at the moment.
Right.
So I think there's some exposure component to it too, and I think that's part of your story
Right,
that's so unique and kind of cool, right?
Yeah,
You know,
that's true because I've seen the other side of the world.
right?
I've seen where as I was in Indonesia, and I've seen where kids playing in the street without arms, without legs, but had that same smile on their faces
Yeah.
as kids here.
Yeah,
And I'm pretty sure they had some goals or some dreams in their certain relationships with their world that they wanted to aspire to.
yeah.
So-
You know, you're right. I mean,
Yeah.
my daughter was on the mission field and she was in Thailand. I went to visit her, and that was one of the things you had to do was participate in the mission, and in this case was in the slums. And I just really, frankly, never seen anything quite like that before. And
It's crazy to see it up front and in your face
right,
like that, and realize where you came from.
yeah,
And that's when the appreciation kicks in.
right,
So when you're saying that when people need to get out of their community, sometimes to see the other side of what could be, what the
Right.
possibilities are, and what other people's reality is compared to what's going on in your life right now. There's not a lot of hope that
Right.
kids have today.
Well, I think that's the impact of just relationships too. We go right back to that. I mean, in hearing your story, and I know yours, I mean, you've got a support network. You've
Right.
got a group of folks who are surround you with love and
Right.
affirmation.
Right.
And if I have that, I
Yeah.
can take some risk.
Right.
Right.
I may not know who I am,
Right,
but I can
right.
afford to take
Right,
risks.
right,
In that sense, the Apollo stage crew
Right,
is that scenario
right,
where he grew up in,
right,
where the support was there for him to learn a craft,
right,
which he excels in very
Right.
well. I mean, him coming in, not in a way, not wanting to step into walking in my footsteps
sure,
in his own way, took it upon himself to do things that I didn't do in the business.
Right.
You know, he's a great rigger right now, which I wouldn't go up on those rigs to do that. But he's in these arenas,
Yeah.
70, 80 feet up in the air, doing that crazy stuff.
I'm only laughing. I'm a pilot, but I'm scared to death of that. I don't like going up 20 foot on a ladder. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, but I'm saying in that environment, that's where I grew up in the theater, where I knew nothing about theater when I came here.
Yeah,
But I was taught within that structure of guys who came in, who took me in under their wing and taught a skill.
right.
And that's one of the things that I was thinking about presenting here in Rocky Mount,
Yeah.
a production company of
think that'd be
carpenters, lighting designers,
It
audio
opens
designers.
so many different doors
yeah.
to do so many
Yeah.
different things.
See,
You know?
and
But
that's
it's the way to present it to these
Yeah.
people. The way to present it to them is the key
right,
that would draw their interest.
right.
That's,
Well, and I want to be a champion of anything like that you can possibly come up with.
Yeah,
I mean, I know that I can't necessarily be the front guy. First of all, I don't even know where to begin.
yeah,
Right.
But whatever I can do to try to make that encouragement is what matters. So, back to talking about Parker, while it has scored low, it doesn't mean that the kids are dumb.
right.
It doesn't
right.
mean
No, it doesn't. I know
that there's
that.
not a
Yeah.
lot of potential
Right,
and
right.
opportunity there. And it doesn't mean that we have bad teachers
Right.
either. It means that we've just got to figure out what that missing ingredient
Exactly.
is. And to the extent that the community can provide that, then we need to. And so I've talked with every superintendent, I've done all those things and just asked, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do?
Right,
I'm not an educator.
Right,
I'm not going to pretend to be. I'm not going to pretend to tell you your job.
right.
But I do know that everything you're talking about and trying to solve the problems,
Yeah,
first of all,
yeah.
thank you for that, for even having that conversation. It's a big deal.
Right. I have a non-for-profit called Your Time to Shine,
Okay?
where we've gone into the schools in Bridgeport, Connecticut, underprivileged kids, and taught music, songwriting, and life lessons
Okay.
along with the.
Well, tell me about that.
It came out of the one night after amateur night.
Uh-huh.
The keyboard player, his name is Matt Ostreicher, got locked out of his car. So I'm getting ready to leave,
Right?
and I see him outside with his car. I said, you need some help. He told me what was happening. He was waiting for AAA. So I said, well, come on inside.
Yeah.
So we got to talking about our lives and where we were going musically, and we struck up an idea about, well, let's start something. Let's do something together. So we started this showcase at the Bijou Theater in Bridgeport, Connecticut, where
Okay.
we went out and auditioned people to do a showcase and an amateur hour,
Yeah.
at the Bridgeport. It went over very well. Out of that, we thought about going into the schools. How can we further this?
Right.
So we took it into schools, and now we're doing very well. We've got 5, 6 schools that we go into to do our classes. We've done virtual classes on the web
Sure.
where we do songwriting
Sure.
with the kids, and it's really a great program.
Well, pick us next.
We would definitely love to do
Yeah,
that. I
yeah.
think it would be a great class a great project to start here. Because I know seeing this facility here,
Right.
I know that there's potential.
It's there,
already.
right.
There is.
yeah,
There
it's-
is. There's potential everywhere,
Yeah, it's
right?
everywhere,
And,
it's everywhere.
and so much of it is about attitude, and so much of it is about trying and perseverance, and just believing that you can actually accomplish
Exactly,
it. You got to start with the goal, though.
Right.
Exactly.
You
But
know?
sometimes you may not have the goal, and that's what comes back to what you're talking about as far as experiencing the vision. Some people
Yeah.
just have everything, but they cannot see the vision.
Yeah.
So therefore, there's no goal in their mind. So therefore, there's no. It's
I
all
can't
goes
get beyond
down.
where I am.
Right. Right.
Doesn't mean I don't
right,
have it in me.
Right.
Right.
I just cannot see
Somebody's gotta
past
pull
myself.
it
I can't
out.
see
Yeah.
it. I can't
Yeah.
see it. Right.
Because in our interaction, you give me a lot of motivation.
Right.
From your conversations, because you've seen the world through a different set of eyes. You come back with a different language that I don't understand sometimes,
Right.
and you have to teach me how
Yeah,
to talk
yeah,
your way,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that I can understand when I hear some of the kids say these things that I know what they're saying.
For me, it's about
What it
becoming a
means.
local.
Right.
Like when I go places and I travel, like I've been very fortunate to be able, like with music and with the theater art that he's instilling
Right.
to me. Like when I go to places, I'm not just going on vacation. Like if I go to Paris or Spain, I'm not going to see the Eiffel Tower. I could care less about it.
Sure.
I want to go to the coffee shop that the locals go to. I want to speak the language. I want to feel.
Right.
I want to feel that, and I learn that. And I take that back home. Sometimes to the point when I come back to America and I get to customs, I'm hating it already. I already feel. You know what I'm saying? I'm hating. I'm like,
Right.
why am I even here? You know?
Right.
And that is the vision that a lot of kids or a lot of youth or a lot of people in general like don't have. Even like gentlemen that are older than me in our neighborhood in Brooklyn and Coney Island that have never been to Times Square. They're 40, 50 years old, and
Wow.
it's a 30-minute ride on a train.
Right. I mean,
They've
at least go
never
check it
been
out,
there.
right?
They've never
Right,
been.
right,
But
right.
it's like, why? Why am I going to go there?
But you're also very fortunate to be able to speak, really call it a universal language. And that's in music, right?
Yeah,
So everybody, and I'm jealous. First of all, I've got a 10 ear. I've got 3 notes, the one you hear me speaking in, one lower and one higher. That's it. If you need a doo-wop man, I'm your guy.
You have a personality that
Personality, though.
Yeah.
So, but thank you for
Yeah,
that.
no doubt.
But I am envious of it. You know, I mean, I can't hear it. I know I can't hear it the same way. Just because, but that's a wonderful gift, and I think that's awesome that you're employing it the ways you have. I mean, really, and getting to know folks. Again, it's about understanding who people are, where they sit, and what their perspective is.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I can't understand your viewpoint because I'm not you. I don't have your experiences.
Right.
Even like when I first went to Germany, I thought before even going to Europe, I thought that, you know, probably like the most like Paris or Spain were going to be like, or Italy is going to be the top. And Germany ended up becoming my favorite country in the world that I visited.
Really?
Because like I went there and I had this whole preconceived notion of just how the people were, how it is, about what we learned in America growing up. So I just kind of standoffish a little bit. And then the people there are just totally different.
Right.
But they would ask me, I got lost with a friend on my way to Hamburg and we needed gas. And we saw this old couple and they brought us to their house to get gas. And she told me that she'd never met a real life American before. And wanted to know what I learned about, you know, things that have happened in the past through history in Germany and what I knew, what I was taught.
Sure.
And I told her, and she explained to me that's what she thought that I knew, but then opened up her school books to what they were taught.
Oh, well, I mean, look, Germany's got a rich history. You got Bismarck, right? First social program ever started in the world, and, you know,
and it
all
made me
this
see a different, I saw past what I was taught.
Sure. Well, all that's true, but it's an 80-year-old history, right? A lot's happened in 80 years in Germany.
Right.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was communist, it was divided.
So many
I mean,
things, right,
wow.
right.
Yeah, to your
You know?
point.
So when I came back and I started telling people that, like, you know, I felt proud to tell people that, like, you know, I went to Germany. I started asking, like, what do you know about that?
Yeah.
You know, like, what were you taught? You know, it's things like that, and that spurs up different conversations. You get to know somebody on a deeper level.